What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is obviously my review for Aquaman, as you can see by the quindent here. So, DC has had some massive failures, and so far the company has been very back and forth. I think Aquaman is the first step in course correcting in a major way. This movie, I already said that I trusted James Wan and any vision that he has for any movie that he touches, because he's just that damn good. If you look at the original Saw, The Conjuring, Fast and Furious, and now this, like, James Wan has quickly become one of my favorite directors of all time. The movie itself looks stellar beginning to end. It's obviously going to have a lot of CGI. You're building this underwater world or worlds. And he did a fantastic job of creating something you've never seen before on film. That I can guarantee you. One of the strengths that I think James Wan really brought to this as a director for Aquaman was he knew the actors he was working with. And I love Jason Momoa, but he's not the greatest actor in the world. Same thing with Amber Heard. And instead of trying to get them to fit a role that they might not be able to pull off, he kind of fit the role to their person, which isn't exactly how it should happen. But like I said, James Wan knew what he was working with, and it turned out beautifully. It really did. I actually liked Amber Heard in this, and I like Jason Momoa in it a lot too. So the strengths, I like the storyline. I like the fact that he was trying to build cause and effect and consequences. Black Manta, he was still kind of the vanilla villain, but he actually did try to create a sequence that justified his reasoning for wanting to fight Aquaman, which I appreciated. And I think the story overall, I mean, it wasn't the deepest story in the world, but it did have some depth to it, which I liked. I appreciated. It was not just your standard special effects movie. It really brought something new to the table, both visually and with the story. The strengths also include the build-up for the future of this, not only the series, but the DC world as a whole. I think there's a lot of things they could do with Aquaman 2, which, if this does well, which I'm assuming it will, it should be very easy for them to do something like that. But also moving back into maybe a future Justice League after they get rid of the memory of the first Justice League and build up some characters for it. You've got Shazam coming out next year. You've got the new Wonder Woman coming out after that. They're supposed to be writing the script for Green Lantern now. So now you have the potential for DC to get back on track. And I think hiring Hamada and Wan was the best decision Warner Brothers ever made for the DC. Weak points. There were a couple of weak points, and I think mainly it has to do with the connection between Amber Heard and Jason Momoa, their chemistry on the screen. I didn't really feel it. And like I said, I liked both of them. I think they did fine with their roles. But when you're talking about like the chemistry of like being wild or really in love or, you know, just doughy-eyed with each other, I didn't feel that. And that was obviously something that, you know, was going to happen. I think that it was kind of unfortunate that they had to build the characters around the personalities of Momoa and Heard instead of the other way around. Because I think if you had exceptionally good actors, there was a little bit more that you could have done with that. I also, like I said, I do think that Black Manta was a little bit of a vanilla villain. He was there, and they tried to make sense out of, you know, what he was doing. You already knew he was a bad guy from the story they built up for him, like what he was. But there was no real depth other than a sequence that I'll talk about in spoilers. I don't want to give anything away in this review, obviously. But overall, the weaknesses could not possibly trump what this movie was and what it did for the world of DC as a whole. So I was very appreciative that they put so much time and effort into this. This could have been any summer blockbuster. I'm really surprised that they decided to release this at the end of the year and not even have anything for the summer. I mean, I kind of understand why, because they had to recreate DC as a whole. Like, Warner Brothers, they were just failing massively. So they took some time. They made a very good movie, I think. Like I said, they've created some worlds here that I thought were absolutely fascinating. I was a huge fan of this movie all the way through. I mean, you know, as a DC fan, there was so many moments in this movie where I got giddy as hell, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And one of those spots in particular, if you watch the extended trailer with the fight scene between Black Manta and the soldiers, Amber Heard, Ismera, and Aquaman, you saw maybe 25% of the actual sequence. It was long, it was entertaining all the way through, and it was funny because I actually watched a review, a non-spoiler review, before I went to the movie, and one of the guys was saying that they thought that it really dragged out because it was 2.5 hours almost, and they felt all 2.5 hours of it, where honestly myself, I'm the exact opposite. I thought the time flew by. It did not feel like 2.5 hours to me. As a matter of fact, I was really surprised when we got to the end. I was like, oh wow, it's already over. Very good, because it does catch your attention the whole time. You know, if there's not an amazing action sequence, there's an amazing landscape behind what's happening. Even if it's a regular conversation, you know, it's something visually very cool. So I did appreciate it. I really liked the way they went with it, and I couldn't be happier. So overall, I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. I thought it was a very good job. I felt like James Wan knocked this out of the park, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future, and I hope this does very well, which I think it will. I think the performances stand up, and the movie, like I said, it could have been a summer blockbuster. So that's where I'm at, 8.5 out of 10. Very strong performance, very strong outing for DC. Couldn't be happier. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you've seen it, save spoilers for the spoiler review, please. My name is Kevin Jackwitz. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Kaged Nation, out.